Okay. Hey, thank you guys for watching and watching some more in the silence. The rule you're never supposed to do in radio is be quiet, right? Unless it's a moment of silence. Today I have Al Richards on the show. He's going to be sharing what it's like to live with someone with addiction. And could you share with us why is that something? What is it that you do?
Well, what I do a plethora of things right now. So I help my brother grow a concrete business out of West Jordan, and we're about 10 years strong now. We're just a small group of guys. There's only 3 of us. I manage the business for him.
And you're very proud of that, by the way.
I am proud of it.
You always share it. You ask this guy anything, what did you do today? Well, I managed my brother's business.
I managed my brother's business,
It's like so important to him. It really is.
It took a lot of hard work to grow it.
That must be why you're just proud of it.
2 guys breaking out driveways with sledgehammers because we didn't want to get a business loan and owe people money. So we worked it up till we had enough money to buy our
6
stuff.
inches, isn't it?
It could be 4 to 10 inches. It's only supposed to be.
It's
only supposed to be 4.
Why would you do that?
It's only supposed to be 4 inches. But as soon as you hit that sledgehammer on the concrete, if it comes back and damn near hits you in the forehead, you know it's thicker than 4 inches.
I know, because I've done it for a second, a minute, and it was a lot thicker than it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
What the hell? And I was with my girlfriend trying to show off, and didn't work out.
I'm pretty good at the games at Carnival and Lagoon, with the hammer and you hit the thing. It goes because I'm used to swinging.
Did you go?
We went to the fair this year. Yeah, it was packed. It was flipping packed. I don't know. I didn't look, man. I was too busy dodging people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was slammed.
That's funny.
But so I manage my brother's concrete business. I also work for Stars Talent Studio out of Lehigh. Mm-hmm. So I do commercials. I do stand-ins, for movies. A lot of people who may even be watching your show, they may have seen me on America First Credit Union commercial. Played a lot during.
Are you the bank robber?
No, I'm not the bank robber. No, I was the guy in the getaway
bank
truck.
Robber or credit union robber?
Probably it would be credit union robber, right? If it was the credit union, yeah. That one was a fun commercial, but played a lot during the NBA playoffs and during the Olympics. I was getting texts all the time, people reaching out to me on social media. Was that you I saw on TV? And I'm like, yeah, that was me. So I do that on the side. Matter of fact, I was supposed to be on a commercial gig today, but they moved the shoot.
How do you deal with auditions? Because I'm with Stars too.
All auditions.
I've gone to a ton of auditions.
Huh.
And like a couple of them, that's exactly what you're looking for, and I never hear from them.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So how do you deal with the no callbacks?
It just comes and goes. So
you're just fine with it?
Yeah, because I'm busy. I'm busy doing other things. No, because that's one of the things that they taught us. They're like, if you don't get any gigs, don't feel like that you're not good enough. It's just that they're looking for something else or something.
Yeah, that is something I've learned.
So,
what I've learned is that they're looking for something and they don't even know what it is sometimes.
Most of the time they don't. Yeah,
and they go,
exactly right. Yeah.
That's how we want the character portrayed.
Yeah.
Yes, you.
Yeah.
Right? I've noticed that. But at the same time, I'm sick of this shit.
Well, I was almost done too because my last gig was April. And I reached out to my agent, Amber, so she's probably your agent too.
Yeah. Amber's great. And nothing about that.
I said, hey man, I haven't been getting any gigs. What the hell's going on? And now it's like bam, bam, bam. I'm getting them. So, but I had they moved today's shoot to tomorrow, and I can't do tomorrow because I have 2 shows to do. So, with that said, I do a podcast as well called The Other Side of Addiction, and that is like my baby. That comes first over anything else.
What is that about?
So The Other Side of Addiction, I started for the reason is my wife's battled alcoholism for about 7 years. 4 years ago, it got really, really bad. Right before that 4 years, she did go 13 months sober, doing really, really well, and decided to take a sip of alcohol after 13 months, and that sip of alcohol changed both our lives within a very short period of time.
Sorry, I've seen that with people that battle that. They'll go sober for a while and they're like, I'm good. Boom, and then it's back.
Well, and it comes back 100-folds, because it comes back even worse because you've starved your body. It's, your
body's craving.
Let's just say you're a vampire and you crave blood.
Let's just say that.
Let's just say you're a vampire and you crave blood and you say, okay, I'm going to give blood up. I'm just going to drink cranberry juice or something. And then one day you take a little sip of blood, and it's like, oh my gosh, this tastes so good. And your brain just starts telling you, and it's hard to beat those thoughts in your head when that craving is so strong.
Mm-hmm.
So, 2020, we all know what happened with that, but I started speaking about my wife's condition and stuff that I was going through, and it was starting to go well. COVID hit, and during 2020, I kept thinking of podcast. I'd really like to do a podcast, but I don't know how to do a podcast. Mm-hmm. So I started taking some of these online classes you see on Facebook, and of course they teach you some things, but then at the very end of it, it's like, for $5,000, we'll teach you how to make a 6-figure income within 6 months. And you're going, yeah, okay, right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just started doing more research, started talking about it, and I was at a ribbon cutting one day for the Murray Chamber of Commerce and ran into a gentleman who I know. It was, gosh, at the beginning of the year. I don't even remember which one it was for. But he knew a gentleman that had a radio show, and he did an introduction. We chatted a little bit, and he had some personal things happen, and we kind of pulled away. I didn't want to bug him while he was going through some personal things. A couple months later, I ran into my buddy again, and he said, man, you need to get a hold of him. Everything's good. And I mean, shit's been rolling like a steamroller since. So, but that's what got me into it, was my wife's addiction. So I've taken something bad and turning it into something positive.
Great.
Yeah.
That's good. Are you still married? No?
Still married. It's been a hell of a rough 4 years. I have filed divorce 3 times. I've canceled it 3 times.
That's fast now too. You gotta be careful.
Something kept
divorce.
Something kept me with her. Everybody else just kind of started shoving her under the bridge. Didn't want anything to do with her family. What friends she did have. So
when it gets too hard, they drop it.
Well, and it's not understanding. Mm-hmm. And that's what the show's all about, is to get rid of that stigma. People think people that are battling drug addiction or alcohol addiction or porn addiction or gambling addiction, eating addiction, whatever the hell the addiction is, they're all the same. The brain works the exact same way. It doesn't matter what the addiction is, the brain, the dopamine reacts the exact same way.
So how do you break it?
Yeah,
you must know a bit about that.
You just, for somebody like myself on the other side, I still don't understand everything there is to know, and I never will, because I'm not in their shoes. Mm. But I have learned a little bit more. For me, what helped me with my wife is, I had a guest on the show once, and we were interviewing him, and he goes, Al, I want to tell you something. He goes, if you think about it, you were addicted to your wife's addiction. Mm-hmm. And I thought about it for a second. I went, holy crap, he's right. Once I figured that out, and it took me 7 frickin' years to figure it out, but once I figured it out, I started changing my how I looked at things, how I looked at her. She was already covered in daggers. She already felt bad about herself. When I got angry with her, all I did was just start pouring gasoline onto that fire that was already burning. Once I started setting boundaries for myself and started doing things differently, that's when I started noticing a change in her. I mean, she even came to me 2 weeks after I let her back in the house. She's like, you've changed. I'm like, what do you mean I've changed? And she goes, there's something different about you. She goes, it's almost like you're getting on with your life, like you're leaving me behind. And I said, babe, I am getting on with my life, and I don't want to leave you behind. But you either jump on the train and you go with me, or you stay behind and you deal with those demons that you've been dealing with. Mm-hmm. It's your choice. And all of a sudden, this woman who I've been with for 15 years just slowly started changing, and she is like this complete, it's almost like I'm, when you're around a little kid and they see snow for the first time, mm-hmm. They're just, and it's so cool to see them. Yeah. It's like, what is this? And they're so curious, and it's almost like watching a little kid, because I'm starting to see my wife be reborn almost, because she's turning into somebody that I felt was always inside of her. She just didn't want to let it out because she was too busy being judged. She was too busy thinking about being judged. I mean, if somebody looked at her in the store, she's like, "What the hell's that bitch looking at?" And I'm like, "What?"
She's ready to go.
She's ready to go. And I'm like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" And she wouldn't talk to anybody. I remember a couple months ago, we were in a grocery store, and I hear my wife talking. I think she's talking to me, and I turn around and look, and she's talking to a gal behind us. She's never done that, ever. And I'm thinking, holy crap. And then we were at another event about 2 weeks ago, and I'm looking around, and I'm going, where the hell did my wife go? Now, that could have triggered me, because whenever that happened before, I knew she was off sipping the bottle somewhere. But I finally located her, and she's off talking to some crowd of people. That's never been her. In the 15 years we've been together, that's never been
changed?
her.
You moving forward?
It's me moving forward, but her starting to understand who she is as a person. This last time that she drank, she came close to killing herself. She's 10 years younger than me, and to see a gal she's 5'2", weighs 112 pounds, and literally walking like she's 90 years old, and couldn't even get a word out because they call it wet brain. It's almost kind of like a person that has a stroke. They can't talk. They try to talk, but you can't understand what they're saying. But
I feel like
she was in really bad shape. I'd feel like that sometimes in the morning. Yeah. But and I think that also, I think that scared her. And then when she was in jail, she had a spiritual visit, and that started opening her eyes. And
what does it bother her that you share this stuff?
No.
So openly?
No, at the start it did. When I first started the podcast, she used to tell me, all you're trying to do is make me look bad. But as the alcohol started getting out of her system, and she started becoming this new person, and she started hearing me talking about the things I did wrong as well, because this whole thing is not for me to point the finger at her, because us on the other side of the addiction, we do a lot of things wrong ourselves. We handle things wrong. We just do the best we can, but we're doing the wrong things. Now she is like 100% supportive. I mean, she's like, don't you dare stop. You just keep going, keep going. She's out there sharing it with people. She goes to AA meetings and tells people. She goes to her classes because of her probation that she's supposed to go to. She's sharing. And she'll be 10 months sober on the 9th of October.
Oh, cool.
And we will be in our studio this Saturday, the 2nd. We're going to record. She finally said, "Yeah, we're going to record. We're not doing live.
I'm like, what did I say? Oh, recordings for pussies."
Yeah. He was calling me a pussy because we record. But each their own.
I just don't record because you get more people notified about live and all the editing and stuff. I don't want to do.
Yeah. Well, I'm blessed to have somebody that does that. Yeah. But on Labor Day, we were out walking on the Jordan Parkway Trail, and she goes, "I'm ready to share." I'm like, ready to share what? And she goes, I'm ready to tell my side of the story.
On your show.
And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Are you interviewing her or someone else?
No, so these were her stipulations.
Oh,
okay, she has rules. and I get it.
I can see, like, I don't want you to interview me.
So basically, my co-host, JD Greenouch, he is now going to be the host. And then we usually have like a guest co-host come on our show. And her sponsor is going to be the guest co-host. So basically, JD and Trisha are going to be interviewing the both of us. So I'm not even going to be running the show like I normally do. I'm going to be sit there, being interviewed just like I interviewed our guests.
You're going to be interviewed.
I'm going to be interviewed. So it's going to be an emotional day, because there's a lot of things my wife and I have gone through.
What difference does your podcast do for people? Like, you did it for that, obviously, right? You're like a podcast. You said how you went through the process, but you didn't really say why you really wanted to do it. What difference it probably makes for people listening to it.
The reason why I wanted to do it is because of what a friend told me. 2 years ago, this past June, I was on my way home from a chamber event. And I had decided after that event I was going to go home and get my gun, go up in the mountains, and I was going to take my life. Because I couldn't deal coming home to what I was coming home to every day. When I finally started sharing, a friend said, Al, you need to share this. And I'm like, who wants to listen? He goes, who wouldn't? Because there are people that are going through exactly what you're going through. That's the whole purpose for the show. To not saying that what I'm doing right now is the perfect right way, because everybody's different. You know, everyone's different. Al-Anon didn't work for me. It's a great program. It's helped thousands and thousands of people. It just wasn't for me. I wish there would have been something else out there that I knew of. So that's what this show's about. This show is to get out, to have people share their experience and say, hey, this is what went on with my life. This is what I did. This is how it's helped. This is what I did wrong. It's not always pointing the finger at the addict. As a matter of fact, we interview a lot of ex-addicts, people who have been addicted to sex, pornography, people who have been addicted to drugs, alcohol. This is where our show is so cool. We had a mom and her daughter on the show. And first I just asked the mom to come on and share her story. She lived on the streets, drugs, alcohol, did some bad stuff, to try to pay for her habit and things like that. So the day before the show, she texts me and she goes, my daughter's going to come to the studio with me. Is that okay? And I said, no, absolutely. Yeah, have her come on in. We'll make room for her. She goes, no, maybe you misunderstand me. She wants to be on the show with me.
Oh, okay. Good.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fine. And she goes, but she wants to share. I'm like, okay. She goes, no, my daughter's never talked about this, ever. This is going to be the first time.
The impact of it.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be great. So they come into the studio and we start our show, and you could see how hard it was for the daughter to say she didn't want to hurt her mom's feelings. And her mom kept going over and touching her hand saying, it's okay, it's all right, I can handle it. And it was so cool to see the bond start happening between the mom and the daughter. So the mom shared, she goes, when I was in the depth of my addiction, I decided it would be best if I left you kids, because I didn't think it was safe for you to be around me because of what I was doing. The daughter chimed in and said, Mom, we had no clue that's why you left us. We thought you left us because we thought the drugs and alcohol and the street life was more important than us. So to see that bond that happened, with those two, after the show, I mean, they got up, gave us all a hug, and they said, you have no clue how powerful this was for the both of us. Because they started to understand each other. And that's the reason for our podcast, is to get people to understand, even if it's this much, about addiction and how hard it is for those people that fight addiction. I had an addict tell me once, she goes, people don't understand when they're battling, either they got to have their fix or they got to have that drink, or they got to go gamble or whatever it is. She goes, let me put it to you this way, Al. What if I gave you a box of laxatives and I told you to eat that whole box of laxatives, then I told you do everything you can not to shit your pants.
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh, whoa, now wait a minute. And then I started thinking, I'm like, that would be impossible. She goes, that's how an addict feels. It's that same feeling. It's that finger constantly tapping you on the head going, you need me, you need me, you need me. And that's what we want our show to be about, is to let people know the struggles that they're going through.
Interesting.
Yeah. And what's really crazy is everybody that we've interviewed has gone through some kind of child trauma. Whether they didn't have a mom or they didn't have a dad, or whether they were beaten or whether they were sexually abused or whether they didn't have a mom or a dad and they bounced around from foster home to foster home, or they lost a brother, or they lost a sister, or somebody in their family committed suicide. It's almost like the stories are the same, but they're not. And those traumas stayed festered deep down inside, and then one day they just came out.
Well, that's how everything works, whether you're a narcissist or insecure about things or codependent or whatever. Something happened, and then you compensate for it somehow. And some people do it with drugs, alcohol, etc. Some people do it through personality disorders, right?
Yeah.
It's a varied thing, you know. Some people become wealthy because they were poor, and they're terrified of it. You know, it's all over the place.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and we all have an addiction. I mean, if you really sit down and think about it and start working, we all have an addiction. Whether it's TV, for me, it's ice cream. I mean,
you're addicted to ice cream?
Oh, yeah, I'm addicted to ice cream.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's taken me a long time to get to where I only have a couple bowls a week, because I used to sit down and eat a huge bowl every single flipping night. And I started realizing, man, that's not good to have that much sugar before you go to bed.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like I got to work on this. But, yeah.
Why ice cream?
I blame it on my grandpa.
Did you make
I don't know. No. We made ice cream when I was a little boy, and I always had ice cream with my grandpa. And to me, that's just my comfort. You know, if I have a bad day, something bad's going on, there's nothing better for me than having a huge bowl of ice cream.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's still not a healthy treat, but I guess it's better than alcohol or drugs or gambling.
Get keto ice cream.
Yeah, I can get keto. Yeah. I could do that. Sometimes. Or the custard, right?
But the custard has a lot more sugar.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Yeah, then we won't.
You're talking about 8 grams to 25, 30, 40. Like that.
All right. Well, that's good that you know that, because I stay pretty physical fit and hit the gym, but I don't really count my calories or none of that crap.
I don't count my calories. I look at what I eat, and I eat pretty healthy.
Good.
What made me do that? Depression made me do that. I used to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner fast food, and then I was depressed. And I changed my diet. I talked to someone, changed my diet, and I wasn't so depressed anymore.
Wow.
Life is kind of depressing, but I'm not so depressed anymore.
Well,
I'm
good for you.
Motivated, get things done. That's like over 10 years cycle, right?
Yeah.
So I exercise. I post how many push-ups I do every day. I do a whole thing with exercise. You obviously don't look at my Facebook stuff.
It's probably because I don't ever see it.
Yeah. Well, it's because we don't interact. So you don't interact, it doesn't show up.
Yeah.
That's how social media works.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen. Maybe it's also my dad. I saw how his heart. It was the depression, but also, I went with my dad to the doctor, and he talked about having vitamin K. So, meat, all this meat, that red meat that we eat, is all grain-fed. It doesn't have vitamin K2 in it. If it's grass-fed, it does have vitamin K2, which keeps your heart clear.
Yeah.
And the grain-fed clogs your heart, where the vitamin K2 doesn't. The doctor told him that 10 years ago, and then 10 years later, we were dealing with exactly what the doctor said.
Wow.
Exactly. And I tried to, and I got my dad to get some K2 meat, whatever. I don't know if it was too late or not, but he did live longer through my healthy diet. Like they were telling me, he died in December, but he lived 6 years longer than they told him. Because I changed his diet. And the only way, though, I could change his diet, though, this isn't about me, but the only way I could change his diet was he had Alzheimer's. And he couldn't go to the grocery store anymore. And when I'd go to the store with my mom also, right, both of it was a shit show. We literally were sitting there, here's a joke, we were literally sitting there in Target fighting over cake because my mom had such high diabetes, literally, right? And people would look at us in Target. But if you do that in Walmart, no one gives a shit.
Yeah, it's normal.
No, it's normal. People just walk
Walmart.
by, it's no big deal. Target, they're like, what's going on there?
Yeah.
So I got to the point, I stopped taking them, and I brought what they were going to eat. And I'd bring them little treats, but the majority of their food was healthy, and I could tell you what that was. And it made a huge difference. To the difference that I had a friend see them in the hospital and then see them at home, and then he was like, here's my credit card. I want to do your health program. Because he saw the drastic difference with them healthy.
Oh,
and
wow.
they lived longer. I wish he lived longer even. But COVID restrictions affected it. Really.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Anyway, but that was what I've seen, and I'm sure like the healthier you are, the healthier you are.
Yes.
The more you could do. The more in shape you're in, the more you do. Now, I'm not saying you won't be addicted, but I've noticed that the healthier I am, the more power and strength I am to not do things that are more detrimental or abusive to myself. Like if I go drink, right, and I'm not an alcoholic, but if I go drinking, I'm much more emotionally weaker the next day.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. Well, and it gets worse as you get older.
Unless we had like a great time, it was a wedding or something. Mm-hmm. But I've noticed it's not like I don't want to drink anymore, but it's like I've been lessening it more and more and more as I can, because I've seen like I don't get as much accomplished, even if I'm not hungover.
Yeah,
it's a depressant.
It still affects you. Yeah,
And
what's funny is a lot of people who are in the recovery of their addiction, a lot of them turn into fitness junkies. Mm-hmm. I met a guy last year by the name of Ben, and he was in addiction deep. And one of his things that helped him is he just started hitting the gym. And now basically he says, I've turned my addiction into a gym addiction. And he goes, I probably go a little bit more than what I should, but if it's helping me stay away from the other stuff, I'm okay with it.
I've thought about that too. I'm like, I could go goof off, or I could go kickbox in the backyard. I should do that more, right?
Yeah.
Or I stuck that cycling there, so if I'm watching TV, I've only done it once, but if I'm watching TV here, which I don't do here very often, I get on the cycle.
There you go.
But you set up your life that way, and it pays off. I've seen it pay off with my dad. I've seen it pay off, and like I'm not lazy to go get the garbage, right? Mm-hmm. It gives you more energy to do the things you want to do.
Exactly right. Sure. Amen.
And you stay fit. You hit the gym, obviously.
I'm at the gym 5 days a week. I go early in the morning. I like the morning workout because when it hits the end of the day, I don't want to be at the gym. Because a lot of times, even though I'm busy during the day doing other things, I still come home and I have to work. There's still emails to answer. There's still guests to call.
It never stops.
Yeah, there's stuff going on. There's invoices,
marketing
estimates to send out. So I like going in the morning. I'm usually at the gym. Now that my wife's schedule's changed up a little bit, I'm at the gym about 6:30. I'm there for about 2 hours. Mm-hmm. So I do about a half hour stretching. And
6:30 is not my thing.
Yeah. Well, I worked for
Even if I'm awake at 6:30, I'm like,
it's like, no.
Fuck that. I'm not going to go work out.
I worked for a manufacturing
go
company for 24 years, and so I was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And, as you get older, it just sticks with you. I could stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning, and at 5:30, 5:45, my eyes are open. It's like, damn it. Oh, come on, please let me sleep a little bit longer. So I usually don't even set an alarm. It just because I just wake up.
You just pop up.
Yeah, I just wake up. But, yeah.
When you considered driving up to the mountains, right, could anyone tell?
No.
Because you seem like very well put together, very clear, concise. But I figure there's people out there, from what you said and what I've seen of you, that think about that too, and they go do it. Or you can never tell. Do you have anything to say to those people to help them?
Yeah, you've got to talk to somebody. I mean, that was one of the things that was hurting me, because I didn't want to share to anybody that my wife was an alcoholic, because I didn't want them to look at her in a different way.
Sure.
I didn't want them to think of me in a different way. The only thing that people could notice is, and I've done a lot of networking the last 10 years, and we used to have this event that the West Jordan Chamber put on called First Friday. As a matter of fact, it started back up. We're doing it again. And I think you've gone. I don't know if you went to those, but
Which one?
It was called First Fridays. We used to do it at the
yeah,
Megaplex
yeah.
theaters
They still
there.
do it, right?
Yeah, we're still doing it, but it's not as big yet because of
It's
COVID.
early, so that's why you don't see me
Yeah,
often.
but you walk into a room and there's 170 people there, and I'm going around hugging. I'm full of energy, and when I'd leave, I'd be really exhausted, and it's because I had a form of PTSD because of what I was dealing with my wife. But people who know me really well were pulling me off to the side, going, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm great. Why? What's up?" And they're like, "You just don't seem like you're the same Al we know." And it's like, "Oh, yeah, man, I'm great," and
So
putting on that false,
yeah.
because when I walked in the room, I put on that energy, the smile, going around hugging everybody, cheerful Al. But people who know me really well started seeing something that I wasn't even seeing. And so no one knew. But for those who are listening, if they're in that state, man, talk to somebody. Because when I finally started sharing, it was almost like this huge weight just came off my shoulders. I mean, I literally felt like I was walking on top of the ground instead of in a 3-foot frickin' dredge of mud, because that's how it seemed like my life was walking into every single day. I didn't even want to go home anymore. I mean, I could have a really good day, and as soon as I got to my front door and opened it, it was just like it all hit. When they say you can walk into a room and feel negative energy, it ain't bullshit.
Oh, yeah,
because as soon as I walked in, man, I was like, I don't even want to freaking be here. I left so many times, I just would leave and go off somewhere to a park and cry or whatever. But when I started talking about it and started sharing, it really started opening things up and really started helping me. I've got a good friend who is an Olympian, and he tried committing suicide, and now he talks about that. Yeah, Bill. Bill Schiffenauer. Yeah, great guy. Love him to death. Met him years ago.
Like Olympian, local.
Yeah,
Kill himself.
Yeah, that's Bill. But now he goes out and talks about it. To take his experience and hopefully go out there and help others. And it's. I think it's a great thing that people, and I'm not saying that because I'm pretty sure I'm in that category now, but it's great to see people who have taken their pain and their struggles and their heartache, and as a gentleman told me once, you don't connect the dots forward, you connect the dot backwards, and you start really seeing where life was. And that's why you're on this path that you're on now, because you connect backwards. I shared a post the other day that I've connected dots backward, and I realized I had to go through all this darkness and all this pain to actually see the light. And it's really helped me, and it's helped me just in everyday life. So it's like my wife said. My wife goes, I get all the credit for this podcast because if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be doing it. And you know what? She's right. She's 100% right.
Yeah, well, that goes with how things show up, right?
Yeah.
For sure. Well, thank you very much for being on the show, Adam.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for asking me, Adam.
The name of your podcast is?
The Other Side of Addiction.
The Other Side of Addiction.
You can find us. You can find us on all the platforms. You can find us on YouTube. Matter of fact,
is it audio only?
It's audio and video.
Audio and video.
Yeah, we have the audio and video. So if you could go on YouTube, we're 35 subscribers away from hitting 100.
Cool.
So go in there and subscribe, because our goal is to hit 100 by the end of October. But the only one we're having a hard time with is Apple Pod. We're still kind of dealing with Apple Pod, but you can find us on Podbean, Pandora, Spotify. You can find us there. Just look for The Other Side of Addiction. You can also find it if you go into the Facebook page Al Richards. You'll find it in there. I also have another Facebook page that's called
you're tagged on here.
AR, The Other Side of Addiction. Just go at Mr. Al Richards and it'll pull that up.
Cool. Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for listening and watching the Ultra Perform Show, the show about performing your best in business and life. Watch our show tomorrow with Stephanie. She'll be sharing a bit about fitness and why she pursues her goals and what that's like. And I'm sure she'll have some weight loss tips for you too. See you guys later. Thanks.
Awesome.